Shalom, Kol Haloyim, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Chakwadash, Shan Yikabad, Gadwala Requab, the Kwanyam Nawa, Wa, Shalayakim Nawa. That's the belongings to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, Shalawam, Wa Barakim, Labakaryim, Shalayasharala, and that's peace and blessings to the elect of Israel. What I wanted to do was bring out just the first few minutes of this podcast. As you can see, it's 36 minutes long. Obviously, we're not going to listen to the entire thing, but the first few minutes basically outlines exactly what the title says, why the world's insect population is in decline and how that's bad news for humans. Just to sum it up, though, before we listen, even if you don't like insects, even if you think they're nasty, they're creepy, whatever, keep in mind that they are a creation of the Alahayim, to be specific. And even though not all are lawful to eat, some are, some aren't, at the end of the day, they play a specific role in our dietary, I'll just say, in our diet. I'll word it like that. I don't want to speak too much on it because obviously I'm not the expert in this area, and that's why we're going to listen to this guy speak. But listen closely because he gives very, very good reasons, as to what's going on, how this affects us. And you'll obviously, if you have a spiritual mind, you're tying this already to Esau, Edom. Without further ado, let's listen to the first few minutes.
This is Fresh Air. I'm Dave Davies, in today for Terry Gross. If you've been around a few decades, you might remember driving with your parents on a highway and seeing the windshield of your car become pocked with the carcasses of countless bugs who met their end with vehicular contact. Well, you may not have noticed, but there are far fewer bug smudges on windshields and headlights these days. Our guest, science writer Oliver Millman, says that's just one measure of a phenomenon that could spell trouble for humans, the striking decline in insect populations around the world. Driven by habitat loss, pesticides, and global warming, the collapse of insect species means more than the loss of biological diversity on the planet. Many insects play critical roles as pollinators, not just bees, but flies that pollinate vegetable plants and midges essential to the reproduction of cocoa plants. Other insects break down rotting plant and animal waste to release nutrients and nourish soil, and many insects are critical parts of the food chain. If they disappear, the birds and other animals who eat them starve, putting the larger mammals who prey on them in trouble. Millman's new book describes evidence of the insectageddon, as some call it, and what scientists think can be done about it. Oliver Millman is a British journalist who's the environmental correspondent at The Guardian. His new book is The Insect Crisis: The Fall of the Tiny Empires That Run the World. Well, Oliver Millman, welcome to Fresh Air.
So he broke it down right there in the first minute and 30 seconds. Just going into the importance of these insects and what they do for us. You have other animals that eat these insects, and some of those happen to be animals that we eat. So if they can't get their food, that means we can't get our food. And not only bees pollinate different flowers and different foods for us, but even I think he said not mosquitoes, but later on in the video, probably he says it, but I think also wasps as well. But they just play a very, very critical role in the world being refreshed and in its proper state. This is supposed to be Aidan. It's supposed to be paradise, Eden, right? But of course, because of the people that are ruling, that's not the case. And so the first paragraph, it says in 2019, Biological Conservation reported that 40% of all insect species are declining globally, and that a third of them are endangered. And the reason for that is because of, I think he said, climate change. He mentioned pesticides, and he also mentioned a lack of habitation. So not having anywhere to literally just live, to be. I want to jump and listen to maybe one other segment I should have noted it. If I can't find it, then it's oh well. But the actual guy being interviewed mentioned some pretty interesting facts. I want to jump to where I believe that is. Let's just try to see if we can find it. Maybe around 4 minutes.
Pollinated by insects that is fed to cows to produce ice cream. So,
Ooh, too far. Let's go back to maybe 2 minutes, 2.5.
insects were never really top of mind for me, either professionally or
Here we go.
personally. But certainly that changed in the course of writing this book.
I mean, your book tests this thesis that the decline of insect populations is really a threat to other parts of the natural world and humanity. So let's talk about some of the ways that insects are important in ways that people may not realize. Mm-hmm. One of them is in pollinating plants, many of them that we rely on for food. I mean, we all know about bees and how particularly honeybee populations have been threatened, but they aren't the only ones. What are some other insects that are critical pollinators?
So you're right in saying that the bees get a lot of the focus and the attention when it comes to pollination, but there's a whole array of insects that provide that pollination service. In fact, there's 3/4 of the world's flowering plants and about a third of the world's food crops depend on pollinators at some stage. And so it's not just bees. We're thinking about flies. Flies are huge pollinators. That includes the midges that pollinate the cocoa crop that chocolate comes from. And there are wasps as well. Wasps are major.
Yep, bees, flies, wasp. Those were the 3 that he mentioned. Had to get it right for myself.
Again, another insect that's widely disliked, but actually crucial for our environment. And without these creatures, we would be without apples, cranberries, melons, almonds, broccoli, blueberries, cherries. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, we'd even be without ice cream because alfalfa is pollinated by insects that is fed to cows to produce ice cream. So we'd be without many of the kind of staples of our lives, many of the luxuries of our lives. Curries would become a historical dish because cardamom would not be there, cumin would not be there, many of the kind of spices, many of the things that make our diets kind of colourful, interesting and nutritious would be stripped from our lives without insects. And I think that's a really important thing to think about when we're thinking about pollinator declines, because many of the world's poor rely upon agriculture that's directly pollinated in their immediate surrounds, and without that, a lot of the nutrition is stripped from their diets. Malnutrition rates start to climb. There was one study that found that there will be an extra 1 million deaths a year from conditions such as heart disease because of malnutrition and poor diets caused by pollinator declines. And the UN has warned that this is going to become a food security issue, something that the world needs to focus on quite acutely. So I think when it comes to food pollination, that's probably the primary thing that we should be thinking about when it comes to insect declines in terms of our own health and well-being.
So food pollination is very, very, very important to our health, and that's why these insects are important. But because of the man that's ruling this entire earth right now, known as Esau Edom, he's calling himself today anything but his true biblical nationality. He's calling himself white, Caucasian, European, whatever. He's the man, the nationality, that is, nation that's ruling this entire earth. And that's why these insects are in decline. That's why you have other animals. And I'm going to grab some precepts soon, but that's why you have, I just came across a few of these articles as well. Fireflies are going extinct. You know, the firefly population could be declining. Here's why. This was written June 7, 2022. You know, will we see fewer fireflies this summer? June 3rd, 2022. Right? And so you may not think about these things, but they're important to our well-being and us getting the proper nutrition from these foods. And so I'm going to start here in the book of Isaiah 24. Start reading verses 3 and 4. It says, "The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish." And the earth is mourning in plenty of ways. Of course, we understand that the air is all messed up. The water is polluted. And these people don't obey the land Sabbath. And so even the earth itself, the soil, it's mourning, right? It fadeth away. It's not producing or yielding the same quality of fruit that it once was in the past. And so you have a lack of nutrition that should be intrinsically inside of these fruits that we're not getting, which means that we're not getting that nutrition that we should be getting on a daily basis. Verse 5, the earth also was defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws. And I mentioned one as an example. They're not keeping the land Sabbath. They've changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant, right? And you can just think of certain other things which may be reasons why the earth is fading away, mourning as well, like not obeying the natural clock that the Alahayim created. You have your clock right in the sky that lets you know day 1 from day 2, from day 3 and 4, and so on and so forth, which is that new moon. But this man changes the times. At a certain point in time, I believe during the Roman calendar, it was like 8 days. It was 8 days in a week. And before that, I think it was 10. And so these things basically change the course of the world, and it makes for a decline in the environment. And that affects us because we have to live on this earth. This is supposed to be, what is it called? Idon, paradise, Eden, right? That was supposed to represent the entire world. But right now, because of the people that are ruling, it's everything or anything but that. I'm going to grab the book of Revelation 11 and 18, because this is the punishment that's going to happen to the people that are ruling right now, because they're the ones destroying the earth. Revelation 11 verse 18 says, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets," that's what we're hoping for, "and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth." Remember, the guy that was being interviewed, or the first person that was doing the interview, he mentioned that the reason why these insects are basically damn near going extinct is because these different chemicals are being sprayed. These pesticides are being sprayed. Lack of habitation. These insects don't have much places to live anymore. Esau is just building up anywhere and everywhere that he can for his money, for his pockets, right? And then he also mentioned climate change. So the people that are doing this, they're the ones ruling. Esau, Edom, and the Most High is going to come destroy them and put them out of power. I'm pretty sure I had something in the Apocrypha, a quick precept, straight into the point. 2 Esdras 14 verse 10, "For the world hath lost his youth, for the times begin to wax old." Straight into the point. And that's why we need Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to return. When you read the second chapter of 2 Esdras 10, 2 Esdras, then it says that the kingdom of heaven is already prepared. And it says, watch. And this is one of the reasons that we're watching, because we're hoping for righteousness to reign, so we can finally eat, real grapes, real fruits, real apples, so we can finally drink clean water, so we can finally breathe clean, proper air. Without these insects, if the Most High weren't to come back soon and send his only begotten son Yahushua to come get us soon, who knows, in the next few years or whenever, apples, melons, everything that he mentioned, certain spices, these things will be gone. They'd be a thing in our past. Our children's children wouldn't know what a blueberry is, what a grape is, because of this man that's ruling. So we're looking forward to righteousness reigning, and I'll end off with this last precept, 2 Peter chapter 3, starting at verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. That's going to be due to this upcoming World War III. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. So what we're hoping for, what we're seeking is deliverance, salvation from this pending doom. That's a pretty good title right there. We're looking for salvation from the pending doom. Verse 11 says, Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be? In all holy conversation and godliness, so we should be conducting ourselves in a manner that's separate from this world. It says, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens, a refreshed heavens, and a new earth, a refreshed earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness, where the insects can finally do what they're supposed to be doing, where, the animals can finally live out their, predestined lot. They can't do that today. Pigs can't be the vacuum of the earth because they're being eaten. Crabs, lobsters, shrimp, and oyster, and clams, they can't do what they've been created to do because people are getting them out of the sea, out of the water, eating them as if they're this delicate meal. But things are going to be changed right side up when Yahushua returns and sets up the nation of Israel, and King David under him, the 144,000, under that, of course, with the 12 as well. And we're going to set things in order through the Holy Spirit. So, Lord's will, this is edifying to the elect. Just wanted to bring awareness to what's happening in terms of the insect population declining, and of course show you biblically why this is happening. Link it to the people that are ruling, Esau, Edom. So call Haloyim Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.